I'm Lou Brutus, and for my next conversation, we are off to the magical land of Scotland, wherein we find our friend Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro. Simon, you look well. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great, Lou. How are you doing, brother?
Doing well, and I'm glad to see you. Before we go on with any questions, I just have to ask, what is the artwork behind you? It looks incredible.
It is the girl with the pearl earring, and actually, it's my wallpaper, like literal my physical wallpaper in the house. So
yeah, that's not fake Zoom stuff. That's real.
No, it's not. After a year of chatting on Zoom, I realized I needed to up my wallpaper game. So I've got a few new walls in the house that are spectacular, Lou. So next time we talk, I'll show you a different wall.
I'm ashamed to say that I have never been to Scotland in my life, and Edinburgh is one of the top cities I have on my list of places I haven't seen, along with Florence and St. Petersburg.
Wow.
Tell folks a little bit about Scotland, and then perhaps tie that into this incredible new Amazon documentary, because your Scottishness has a very large amount to do with the DNA of the film.
Yes, it does, Lou. It does. And you're welcome in Scotland anytime. You've got friends here for life, brother. So anytime you want to come to Scotland, just let us know and we'll sort you out. So as a band, we've been a band for about 20 years since our first record. Now, every album we make, we like to travel to different parts of the world and kind of soak up different cultures and just kind of feel a different mindset, while we're creating music. Now, obviously, because of the pandemic, all traveling got ceased and we weren't able to go on tour. We weren't able to do our usual thing, the life we've been living. The same as you, Lou, you were talking about having a taster of a festival last year, and it was a little glimpse back into reality, and then it gets snatched away. So we felt like we wanted to try and just find something to focus our kind of confusion and our kind of anxieties about what was happening in the world. And so we decided we would try and make our very first record top to bottom in Scotland. Now, we have a very kind of amateurish practice room set up. So we spent about 6 months building a studio for ourselves on this farm that we have near our homes. And we set about trying to make a proper big ass rock and roll record in a farm. So it was unusual because we haven't spent so much time at home in Scotland in 20 years. I think this is the longest time I've ever been at home, Lou. And it's like most people, I think when you're a teenager growing up, you're desperate to leave home. You're desperate to shake off everything and all the restrictions and constrictions of your hometown. As we've gotten older, I've kind of realized how much Scotland and our attitude to the world has kind of informed our music. So Scottish people are normally quite pessimistic about things. We're quite collective in our views. We very much are kind of feel like part of a team, and there's not a lot of room for ego in Scotland. So it was quite unusual trying to take that kind of small town mentality and turn it into something that really the sky was the limit. So yeah, very much our work ethic and our attitude to life and how we approach our music is so informed by Scotland. But this was the very first time where we'd fully engaged as a band in our home country.
This might seem like an odd aside, but how did the loud blaring music at the studio on the farm affect the farm animals? I can't see the cows and chickens thinking that this is like the greatest thing that ever happened.
I tell you what, Lou, the milk was delicious. For the 3 months, it was creamy, it was sweet. I like to think that our rhythms do kind of soothe the animals, the cattle and everything, but the reality is I think we do the farmers' heads in. They're out there working from like 5 a.m. until like 10 o'clock at night. And we come wandering in at like 2 p.m. and we make a racket for 3 hours and then we bugger off home. And I'm pretty sure they hate us, but they don't tell us that. But I'm pretty sure they just, every time we turn up, they're like, you amateurs, you lucky sods, you call this a day's work. But
by the way, if there's any aspiring musicians watching this right now who are looking for a band name, Scottish Rock Cows. That's my suggestion for the day.
It's shortened to SRC as well. That is perfect.
Yeah. That'll help with the Twitter handle, SRC band. So when you're trying to put the record together here at the farm and first building the studio, tell me about some of the more frustrating, hopefully funny moments as you're dealing with glitches and trying to get equipment through the course of the pandemic, where suddenly electronics are like ungettable.
Yes, well, that was very much a problem immediately. You know, some of our gear is kind of dotted all around the world. So we really had a limited set of tools and a limited arsenal. In a way, that can become inspiring, Lou. I'm sure there's plenty of people you've talked to that sometimes the limitation of a situation can make your mind move into different places. And actually, ironically, when you have too much choice and options, it can sometimes be prohibitive. So actually, the limitations helped in that regard. Now, Lou, believe it or not, the toilet we use at our studio is an outhouse toilet. So literally the definition of a Biffy, I believe, in America is an outhouse toilet. So we were using a Biffy for 3 months while we were making this fucking record, which was strange. And also we had to build the studio from scratch. You know, we had no gear. It's very much just a rehearsal room. So for 20 years, we'd only ever been in there for a week or two at a time before we went back on the road or something. So it was very much a challenge to try and make it somewhere comfortable that we were happy to kind of record at. But the actual practical challenge was really just finding a way to make it, like, actually getting the microphones. I mean, all the unromantic stuff, they actually getting all the microphones, getting Adam, our producer, getting everyone tested. You know, it was really, really, it was right in the middle of lockdown. So there was an awful lot of hoops to jump through. But ironically, that kind of made the actual act of making the album a lot easier, because suddenly those little stressful moments that can sometimes tip you over the edge, actually everything was removed. The joy was in being together. The joy was in kind of getting over the challenge of actually, can we make a record in our hometown? And once we realized we could, the kind of each week bled into the next week. And then suddenly we realized we could do something truly, well, what we felt was truly special and very unique. You know, none of us will ever be in this, I hope we'll ever be in this situation again, where we've been so kind of isolated and unsure of what's around the corner. You know, I think all of us have hit another level of consciousness because of what we've had to go through, you know. So definitely it's not the most glamorous setting, but you know what? You don't need glamour to make good music, Lou. You know, sometimes music comes from those moments where you are uncomfortable and you actually feel that you're having something to prove. And I think the fact that was the only thing we had control of really kind of gave us a strength of purpose in what we were doing. To give you one actual funny story, when we started recording the bass guitar, so we were doing the first couple of songs and there was this little pop happening on the bass track. It was just going poof, poof, like every 5 seconds. And we started to think, look, the gear's broken. We're not going to be able to do this record. And it turned out it was the electric fence that was keeping the sheep in. So we had to get the farmer to turn off the electric fence while we were recording, you know, so those kind of details that never happen in a normal studio just make you kind of roll your eyes and go, well, fuck, it's a fresh challenge. You know what? We never thought the sheep would be part of the record, but here they are.
You know, 2 thoughts come out of those stories. One is that shared misery makes for the greatest bonds amongst human beings. And also it's out of trials and tribulations that the greatest art comes from. And that's not just music, that's painting or sculpture or anything else.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree, Lou. I think there's something about if you're too comfortable, it's not conducive to making something special. And I think there's a struggle in any form of art is just so important because it feels like you're trying to get your voice heard, or you're trying to like make a statement, or you feel like you know, you want to let people know you feel the same way. There should be a reason to communicate with your art. And I very often find that unless you're having a struggle or you're trying to get over an emotion, then it's hard to cultivate that, and you can't fake it. there's songs I've written over the years where I've just thought, it's time to write a song. And whenever I listen back to those moments, I'm like, I can tell that I was just ticking boxes, and I can tell which songs have really just come from my soul, and I've not clouded it with my brain. I've let the kind of heart and soul make the decisions. And all my favorite bands and favorite songs over the years very much have that honesty and that truthfulness to it.
Tell me about this tune, which is a great piece of work, A Hunger in Your Haunt.
Thank you. I'm glad you dig it. It was a riff that I'd been kicking around with for the last kind of couple of years. And I didn't really think it was going to come to anything, but because all the tours got cancelled, we'd just released our last album. I believe we talked together about 18 months ago, maybe. Yeah. And that was an album that came out just at the start of the pandemic, and we were about to go on tour. Now, like everybody, I was waking up for the next few months just wondering what my purpose in life was, where I belonged in the world. If I wanted to feel like I could contribute something to the world. And this song became my kind of mantra to myself. It was a song I kind of wrote to kind of motivate myself to not feel beaten down or browbeaten by what was going on outside our homes, and realizing that I needed to get myself motivated. I needed to get myself into a more positive state of mind, because it was too easy to become submissive to the situation. And I think, as we've just discussed about the struggle, quite often art is just the most important art comes from those moments where you're trying to make sense of something, you're trying to figure a way through. So Hunger in Your Haunt, it's a song that's very much definitive of our band as a sound, as a three-piece rock band. It's got our kind of weirdness. And as I say, lyrically, it's very much about just trying to grab yourself by the scruff of the neck, get through a really tough situation and find that reason to get up in the morning and find that inner fire. Because I think we all lost that for a little while, at the start of the pandemic. I think our fires are starting to burn again. We're starting to kind of realize what's really important to us. We want to spend time, our next tour is going to be in your part of the world, Lou. We're coming to the States for a month or so, and it'll be our first tour in 2 years. And I cannot wait to be in a room with people, just sharing something, just sharing an experience and to be in that moment and nowhere else. There's something about music and the sharing of music that is magical in ways that perhaps even other art forms don't have that magic. And I'm a big fan of literature and art and movies and things, but there's something about music where you can have a personal relationship to a song, or you and your friends can have a relationship to a band. And there's so many memories through music and through music and through one little melody that I just love. So I'm so excited about being able to share that joy of just creating something, and we're in it together, and we're going to fucking create some joy and transcend the moment and remember what it's like to be alive and to be into fucking music. Excuse my language.
Very well answered. I have to mention, before I even heard a note from the song, because the word haunt was in it, the first thing I thought about was, man, there's a lot of great ghost stories and legends from out of Scotland. Are there any haunted places you know about nearby?
Yeah, well, it's not so much haunted, but there's a fantastic story of a character called Sonny Bean. And he is a fella that lived in a cave. This is hundreds of years ago. He lived in a cave about 10 miles from here. And he was a cannibal, and he was a well-known cannibal. He ate about 16 people. So this isn't even this is a true story. It's a horrific story. And there's all these stories about Sonny Bean and where he came, where he got his victims from. So the story has expanded over the years, but you should Google him. It's SAWNYBEAN, Sonny Bean. And he's quite a character in this part of the world. We also grew up with the poet Robert Burns is from this part of the world, and he wrote a lot of great poetry about spirits and things. Although being a big drinking part of the world, this part of the world likes to drink a lot. I think a lot of his ghost stories has just been when he's been steaming at the end of the night. He's been pissed in his bed and think he's seen something.
I want to go back to the cannibal though. Why didn't Sean Connery, rest his soul, play him?
I think even Sean would have probably made him too charming. That's the thing. He would have made him sexy. I don't think anyone wants a sexy cannibal.
And as long as we're talking about slightly strange things, I do like to ask this. One of the big stories that broke while most everybody has been locked down around the world were these Pentagon reports in the United States of U.S. Navy jets getting these things flying around in the air, and they said, yeah, they're legit videos. We don't know what they are. You ever see anything strange up in the sky?
Well, actually, to be honest, I haven't really here, but I'm a bit of a believer, Lou. I loved seeing all those videos released, and I really appreciated the fact that there was kind of a confirmation that we don't know what they are. For years, there's been that denial, and it's like, I'm not looking for answers, but I just want these experts to admit that sometimes you don't know everything. So some of the footage is spectacular and really, really freaky, and I cannot find another way to explain what it is other than the fact it's from another part of the universe. And again, I love it because it reminds me just how kind of, in a nice way, how insignificant we are. You know, we're just part of this massive tapestry of the universe. So things like that, I really enjoy, and I just love mystery. I'm sure you're obviously the same, Lou. It's like, it just reminds you that we don't know everything. You know, the older we get and the more we experience, we start to think, oh, I've seen this and that. I feel as though I've seen every version of something, and that just reminds us that we're all naive. We're all kids at heart still. So, yeah. But sadly, nothing in real life, nothing that wasn't caused by overdoing it in some form or another.
So in the middle of getting the record done and lockdowns and all this, suddenly you guys start to become the subject of this Amazon documentary, and anybody can put together a film on themselves, and a lot of bands have done some great projects, but yours ends up on Amazon. Tell me about the whole story of how this thing came to be.
Yeah, well, the director, a fella called Jack, he heard we were making a record, and he kind of reached out and he said, you know, would you mind if I came and started filming you? Now, we're a very private band, Lou, and we don't normally let people into our kind of inner workings, and certainly not in Scotland. You know, this is very much our kind of sacred spot where we do our business and then we go elsewhere, you know, so it very much feels like a secret up here. So once we decided that we were comfortable with someone coming up, it felt so important to document this part of our lives. You know, I think in 10 years' time, we'll maybe have a better idea of how we all changed during 2020 and 21 into this year. And it was so important to document it musically, but to document visually, just the joy we had in being together, and like, you know, because being in a band can be complicated. There ends up being so many dynamics. You have other people that stick their nose into what you're doing. And I really appreciated the fact that we were documenting the fact it's just the three of us and our friends making a record. The fact that Amazon wanted to do that, you know, we were actually honored that they thought we were worthy of a documentary, you know, and they knew how important this album was. It's our very first album recorded in Scotland. You know, I wrote all the songs at home. We made the record 10 miles away. We filmed a video 15 miles away. So this entire project was created in Scotland from start to finish. And the fact that Amazon knew that was special for us, and they wanted the movie to be part of our discography rather than just a documentary. And as soon as we knew there was that artistic touch to it, it felt, you know what, this could be okay. But I'm sure you know yourself, it's strange. I'm sure you've had people documenting your life, Lou, at points, and it's a strange relationship because you want to be fully relaxed, but yet you're quite aware you're letting a stranger into your kind of inner life. So hopefully it inspires people to want to be in a band, you know, because being in a band is the fucking greatest thing. You know, I know that these days there's a lot of kind of solo artists and people can make incredible music by themselves, but being able to share something with your friends and share that chemistry that comes alive in those moments where your ideas are bouncing off each other, nothing beats it. And hopefully the documentary captures that feeling of being in it together and being in it for the right reasons. You can learn to be technically better as a musician. You can learn to do this and that, but you can't learn to be friends. You can't learn to get on. And I think that's the key part of our band, and what kind of made us comfortable in making this documentary was, you know what, we're three buddies getting through a tough time in our lives, and it just so happens we're making a record, so fuck it, let's document it.
That is a perfect place to exit on. And Simon, it's always great to speak to you and the guys. I can't wait to see you over here in the States. And I highly recommend Biffy Clyro, Cultural Sons of Scotland on Amazon. Congratulations on everything. And hopefully I will see you in the flesh in the not too distant future.
You bet you will, Lou. Thanks so much, brother.
And I'm coming to Scotland. I'll figure it out. I don't drink much anymore, but I want to go on a pub crawl with you.
Well, you've got a place to stay right here, brother. I'll make the bed up right now.
And you got nice wallpaper, so I'll have nice surroundings.
Thanks, Lou. You're a gentleman.